Hello, and welcome to the weapons test. I'm Law of the West, and for today's episode, I'm going to be showing you a pair of size 3 ship-mounted distortion weapons, the DR model XJ3 repeater distortion gun, and the Preacher Armaments distortion scattergun. During this installment, I'm going to be taking a bit of a different approach to showing these two weapons off. And luckily, we have a volunteer ship to work with that I'm going to be using to help illustrate my point. The main thing about distortion weapons is that they don't do any actual damage to a ship. Instead, they can shut down an opponent's shields, adversely affect their component's ability to function, and drain the target's energy supply dry, leaving them listlessly drifting in space. Weapons of this nature are going to be the perfect choice for bounty hunters and pirates alike, who wish to disable their prey instead of actually killing them. For this first example, I'll be using a Connie to illustrate the differences between these two weapons, both of which for the purposes of this demonstration are going to be the same size, are going to be mounted onto the same ship platform, and will be dealing the same kind of damage. But as you'll see, each one takes a very different approach as to how they do it. First, I'm going to be using the DR model XJ3 from Associated Science and Development. This distortion repeater is designed to target a ship's power supply. It has rapid fire capabilities and can hit its targets accurately from a good distance away. Okay, so let's do some testing. Wow, look how quickly it melts those shields. And for the sake of expediency, I've already done the counting, and this barrage that I've just done is going to be enough to keep the Connie shields down for slightly over half a minute before they start to recharge again. And before you ask, I have tested this from different distances away from the target. I'm just this close up because it makes the shot look better. When it comes to this weapon, as long as you're within range of your target, the distances that you'll be firing from won't make any difference in the amount of distortion damage that you'll do. Next, we have the distortion scattergun from Preacher Armaments. The distortion-based weapon shoots a close-range spread shot that drains the opponent's energy. The closer you get to a target, the more effective it's going to be at knocking down a target's shield. Now, unlike with the DR-JX3, distance does matter with this weapon, and when you're up close, all it takes is 3 consecutive shots to fully knock down a Connie's shield. And just like with the DR-JX3, the Connie shields will take a full half minute to regenerate after its shields have been knocked down. I found that if you're planning on venturing out alone, distortion weapons will work best if they're paired up with their damage-dealing equivalent. For instance, the Preacher distortion repeater pairs up extremely well with the Panther repeaters. This is because they have the same range, rate of fire, and pip lineup. Also, the distortion scattergun pairs up equally as well with the Predator scattergun, or with a couple of pyro bursts. Once again, this is because each of these weapons has the same inherent statistics when it comes to rate of fire, range, pip lineup, and hitbox targeting. So why is this so important? When pips for all your weapons line up, it makes targeting the enemy far easier, and allows you to keep using the same attack style with both weapons. If you have another ship fighting with you, you can always outfit one ship exclusively with a set of distortion-based weaponry, and the other with a standard laser or ballistics loadout. We call this the 1-2 punch. It usually works best to outfit the distortion guns on a fast ship, while the other ship, which is hopefully a bit tankier, directly engages the enemy. This gives you the ability to melt their shields almost instantly while the other ship tears through their hull once the shield is down. Your loadout choice, much like everything else, is going to be all about personal preference. Everyone has their own style and approach to setting up their weapons, so go ahead and mix and match them any way you want. Your personal preferences are going to change over time as you play the game. For instance, at first, I was convinced that splitting the distortion weapons and damage-dealing weapons into 2 different weapons group was the only way to go. And for a while, I'd only attack the enemy with the distortion weapons first, then switch over to my damage-dealing weapons only after I had managed to knock their shields out. Later on, I experimented with mapping both the distortion weapons and damage-dealing weapons to the same weapons group, and fired on a target with my full arsenal of guns all at once, just to see if that tactic had any more effect. And you know what? It really did. It may not be the most energy efficient way of using your weapons, but you'll still do some damage with every hit even if their shields are still up. And once the enemy shields are down, the extra distortion hits will continue to drain their energy, keeping those shields down, or even completely immobilizing them if enough distortion damage has been done to their components. Another good thing to note is that distortion weapons do not use ammunition, so they've also got that going for them. This is Law of the West saying always keep your enemies in your sights, and take care.